How much should I pay for a 240D? .240Ds used to be pretty inexpensive cars. You could buy a really good 240 for $3,000 or $4,000. Before, we had to buy all of our parts from Mercedes because everything was garbage and made in China like it is today. You could spend about $1,100 on a front end. Again, this is about 10 years ago. Do some other things like an AC compressor and a set of belts, and you'd have a pretty good car that you could drive as long as you wanted. Well, apparently people have discovered that the 240D manual is an exceptionally well-made car, and with it has come a significant uptick in prices. I have now regularly seen people paying well over $10,000 for decent 123 series 240D stick shifts. In fact, we should revise that statement and say mid-teens. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? We're going to discuss why this is happening and if there's a way to beat the market on a 240D in case that's what you want. So, why this is happening is pretty simple. There are a lot of great Mercedes that they made, but the simplest, most reliable, most practical car for the do-it-yourselfer has always been the 123 Series 240D. These cars were basically made to be driven around the world. They were made to need minimal repair, but were maintenance intensive, because if you maintain something, you tend to do a better job avoiding failure, especially because when you're actually doing the maintenance, you often observe items that might be on their way out. Most people didn't maintain the 240 that well. I should also say that most people who had one bought them because they wanted an inexpensive but extremely reliable car. Well, they don't make inexpensive, reliable cars anymore. Now, if you want a base economy compact car, and you don't want something that's super complicated like a Volt or a hybrid or something, you get to buy a 3-cylinder Mitsubishi Mirage. I'm sure that sounds really exciting. And reports are in that the Mirage will not reach 100 miles an hour, and it's kind of scary if it does. So you can spend $15,000 in a 3-cylinder Mirage, or you can buy a cool and classy 240D that may not be depreciating in value. Now, if you're going to spend the big bucks for a 240D, really, what did most people look for? Well, they look for a car that's cosmetically decent, or rather, you should look for a car that's cosmetically decent with nice paint, a nice interior, no cracks in the dash. Options don't really matter. Whether you overpay for a car with 0 options or you end up with a fully optioned car, it doesn't matter. Now, there's a clear market preference towards stick shift versions. I think this goes hand in hand with the idea of perceived simplicity, but the automatics are still a good deal. So like I said in one of my previous videos, if you want an automatic 240D, I wouldn't avoid one. I would just, make sure that you understand that there are some differences in those transmissions and how they operate, and with the understanding you're probably going to have to do some vacuum system repair if you get a 1980 or later version. But otherwise, they're pretty good. But the stick shift cars just seem to have gotten really valuable. Now, the other thing I ask myself, this is something I was talking to my buddy John Woods about the other day when this 84 300 turbo diesel wagon sold for 32 grand at the Raleigh Classic. It seems to me that we're going to have to start figuring out a way to restore these cars to a factory standard at some point in the near future. We can't just keep relying on buying, sorting, and driving out nice cars. We've got to restore some of the cars out there. So this tells me 2 things. First, most people are not willing to do the restoration work. They'd rather overpay for a really nice car than say, pull a tired motor on a 350,000 mile car that may also need some upholstery work and rebuild the engine and maybe rebuild the seats. This is unfortunate because everything in the 240D is repairable, and the irony here is that people end up wanting the forever car, but they want to be the one to put all the miles on it. Never understood that. And if you really believe it's a forever car, you should be able to buy it with 400,000 miles on it and then fix all the stuff that wears out. The other thing that it tells me is that we're going to see a lot of these cars that are misrepresented as decent cars being peddled for extremely high prices. So just because a car is nice, don't believe somebody tells you that it's nice. Like, you need to inspect and watch out what you're looking for. Particularly with 240Ds, watch out for oil consumption, watch out for previous accident damage. There seem to be a lot of cars that have been affected by those issues that are floating around for stupid money. And the last thing I want you guys to remember is that there are some 240s out there that are actually decent cars that need a good cleaning and some fluid services and some new tires, and they'll probably be just as nice as some of the cars that are being sold by dealer websites or on, auction websites or on eBay. I mean, we had a subscriber last year offer us his grandmother's 79 240D with under 100,000 miles on it for a reasonable price. That was, I think it was like around $2,000, and nobody followed up. Car ended up getting donated. So we don't know where that car is now, but it got donated. Perfectly decent 79 240D. Okay, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're looking for a nice example of a Mercedes, don't buy one just because a dealer has it. Try to actually find the right car organically. Don't fall into this instant gratification trap that new car buyers fall into. It's a different philosophy than what owning a classic Mercedes is. And if you have a 240D and you're wondering where the market is in your car, well, share your opinion with us or your thoughts. Maybe you'll influence somebody else to want one. We'll see you guys later. Enjoy driving your Mercedes 4-cylinder diesel.